Well, I'm here for a special interview with Jeff Foster, and we're in a very appropriate and significant location. We're here inside the showroom at Berger Chevrolet in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And Jeff, we're here for the All GM car show. It's a great opportunity to celebrate some of Berger's heritage, and we're surrounded by some very appropriate cars. These are some of the most legendary fourth-gen Camaros ever produced. And Jeff, we're talking today because you were closely involved with their final construction. So take me back. You were on staff during this era,
Yes.
the late 90s, early 2000s. You were on staff with Berger Chevrolet as a paint and body tech, correct? And what was your first involvement with the GMMG project?
We ran into a father and son duel, and Denny Barker is better at this story than I am because I'm just the one doing the work. You know what I'm saying? But we had a father and son come up. I believe they're from Texas. The guy owned if I'm not mistaken, a COPO, a 69 COPO, and it was Daytona yellow. And his son somehow seen the whole Berger story of we started doing the Berger packages, basically the Berger cars. And he's seen the story. I don't know what magazine he's seen it in, and he told his dad, "Hey, wouldn't it be neat to get one of these Berger cars and have a bookend?" We would simply have him paint it. We'd take it all apart, paint it the same color as our 69 COPO. That's how it started. That car ended up being on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I have still a couple copies of Hot Rod where they did a basic cover story on that car. So.
Now, when you said that that's when it first started, for clarity's sake, is that the first time that one of the vehicles that Berger and GMMG created had a special request for custom paint?
For a complete paint job.
Okay.
In other words, you're taking a brand new car apart, completely apart, and repainting it before there's 1 mile on it, and reassembling the car.
Because the process was, up until that point, obviously Berger partners with GMMG in Marietta, Georgia. Cars are sent there,
Sure.
They're transformed, and then they're sent here for final prep and sales. And so that's kind of where that story that you told surfaces, correct? Where someone said, "Hey, I wanted to actually match my COPO Camaro."
Exactly, and
Okay.
we had a number of customers like that. We had, I believe, 2 or 3 other customers who also, same thing happened. When they decided to do the 69, go out with the 69 ZL1s, just like they did when they first created the 69, they did 69 ZL1s with the aluminum blocks, all that. When they decided to go out with them, there were a couple members who already owned a 69 ZL1 that also, I got to have the orchard on mine. My ZL1 and 69 ZL1 is orchard. Can you paint it orchard? Sure. Can you paint it Daytona yellow? Again, that Daytona yellow is probably the most transformed color that we used up here in the Grand Rapids.
Right.
On this aspect, I don't know how they did it down in Atlanta, what colors they ran into, but Daytona yellow was the big color.
And like you said, I mean, the entire run of Berger Camaro's process through GMMG really were prime for hearkening to heritage because they were celebrating Camaros from the past. So
Sure.
That's where, from a cosmetic standpoint, you and the rest of the team could really go crazy and kind of bookending and doing custom tailors.
Order anything you want, basically.
Before we get to some of the nuts and bolts of what you would do, let me back up. And just as you were around the dealership, what's your first recollection about hearing about what Matt Berger had cooked up with this program?
Personally, I thought, in fact, you can talk to mechanics as well, the ones who were in charge of the shifters, all the modifications that would go with the rear end gears, with some of the engine modifications. They were all hyped about it as well. I mean, this was something that the whole dealership got behind it, basically, all the way from sales to the mechanics in the back to the paint department. So, and it's part of history. I mean, even
right.
Back then we realized that, well, this is part of muscle car history. I mean, these are cars that are going to be registered just like they did back in '69, back in the heyday of muscle car era. Same thing going, it's almost like a bookend of muscle car era, basically. You got the first bookend going back in the 60s, and then there was this revival, it seemed like, that just started to happen in 99 and 2000, 99, 2000, right around there.
And so Berger kicks it off. You talk about heritage and history. They kick it off in 2000, celebrate with the Berger SS,
Sure.
celebrating their 75th anniversary.
Yep.
So that's kind of the first first effort.
I remember doing a lot of stripe jobs with people weren't completely satisfied with just having a vinyl stripe, and one of my first recollections was Matt Berger coming back there and saying, I think he brought a prototype of Matt Murphy, I think, had a prototype. He pulls it in and he goes, can we just replicate this? And I go, yeah, piece of cake. The only thing I would change is the outer stripe on it, the outlining stripe. Instead of a 1/8 inch one, we're just going to put a 1/4 inch one on. And that's where it started.
That's where it started.
And then Matt goes, and Dennis, because Dennis is in charge of the sales, can you transform these? I go, yeah, we just did Dale Berger's. We did Dale Berger's, had a convertible car, and Dale Berger was in love with the Corvette yellow. And he says, can you guys do this? And sure enough, the only problem with doing it, though, was that transforming the car ties up too much of the body shop. So what they needed was somebody to come in and basically dedicate themselves to the specialty work. And typically I would do that on a second shift basis, you know what I mean? So that you're not interfering with the flow of regular production work that's going on. Because we got a good reputation for a good body shop here in town too, so you don't want to destroy any of that, but at the same time you still want to maintain the quality that these people are going to be requiring of their cars. So, and that's where it basically started. I said, all right, I will dedicate and I'll come in and do all the specialty work. And Dennis says, do you know what you're getting into? I go, I don't care, dude. It's part of history. I'm there, man. I've been doing this my dad was a custom painter, me growing up. So I've been around all this for all my life, except for the tearing down of the car part. I needed a little bit of help knowing how to put the doors back on and adjust the doors with other body guys in the shop. But other than that, we were in full control of almost from the moment they come off the carrier to the moment they went down to Atlanta to get the engines put in them. Because most of the engine work on the ZL1 project, all the engine work was done down there. Now, obviously the Berger cars, we would do that in-house up here. But I can't think of one car that was up here that didn't go down to Atlanta to have all the engine work done by Matt Murphy down there. So what was nice about working with them here at Berger, that's why you just do a second shift.
Second shift, okay.
See, I just come in at night, make sure that everything is not cluttered up. If I got to use, you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
The booths are all cleared out for the guys in the morning. They don't have to handle any of that. And so that works out really nice. That works out good because you're not rushed and still making good money, still making good, and the quality is the main thing. You can't have the cars peeling or chipping, stone chipping. You have to have quality work done. These cars are still, a lot of these look like day one, 22. I'm just amazed at how nice these cars look. Yeah, because I'm my biggest critic. I mean, you can ask a couple of Vince. You ask Vince for one. I'm looking around there. I'm trying to find. God, I can't find any of them. We did good on that one. All right.
During that time, Jeff, do you recall? Did you have additional help in that for those night shifts, or
nothing?
Wow.
Zero. And I didn't need any. No help. One story I told you I'd tell was Dennis Barker came in one morning, and he goes, "We come in through the back lot in Berger," and he goes, "Did you notice those 10 Camaros that are sitting back there?" And I know what he's getting at, because all the Camaros that we do, they come black. They're all black. And the reason they're all black is because you don't have to deal with changing the color on the underside. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everything you don't have to pull the engine to do any of the paint work inside, so everything came black. I go, all right, what's going on? I just seen 10 cars back there black. What's going? are you telling me I'm going to be busy all summer painting black cars? And he goes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And then he told me about the ZL1 program that they had going on. So we were busy all summer long, transforming literally 10 cars that summer. Daytona yellows, Rally, what's it, Le Mans blue, the orchid color, a couple bookend cars I can remember doing, but 10 of them. I'm pretty sure there was 10 of them lined up. I might be wrong. It might be 9. It was either 9 or 10, but we were busy that summer. So.
And the workflow would have been, Jeff, that before the cars would have been driven into the shop for you to work on,
sure.
They would have been coming from Marietta already with the powertrain upgrades, correct?
No.
No, okay.
No, they came directly from GM here.
So you would have done the painting and then they would have been sent down to Matt Murphy? Okay.
Only the ZL1s.
The ZL1s.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we did 2 demo cars for Matt Berger. Those are 2 transformations. The hot rod, which is, as far as I know, is the only hot rod edition that was transformed. I don't think there's any other. I think there's 50 hot rod cars, and I think the yellow one that's here at this Berger show this weekend is the only one that was transformed. The guy wanted it Daytona yellow, basically, which again goes back to what I said. Seems like that Daytona yellow just kept popping up and popping up and popping up. So
now with the ZL1 transformation, let's talk about that. What would have been your actual process? So, you see the vehicle in the truck, obviously you bring it in or you have a porter bring it in.
So we had a system.
Okay.
We definitely had a system, especially with the 10, right? So basically what would happen with me was disassembly would happen, but there's not much to disassemble on a 4th generation Camaro other than the headlights and the marker lights for the most part, and the mirrors. But I would DA the cars. We would sand the cars down literally all together because it was the easiest way to do it. Wet sand the cars down because that would give us the smoothest finish. And then we would tear the car down. Then we do all the jams. We paint the underneath the hood, paint the inside of the doors, all off the car. Everything's off the car. Everything. There's nothing on the car except maybe the windshield because there's no reason to pull the windshield. Most of the cars we're dealing with, other than the ZL1s, we had a method for the ZL1s where you didn't have to pull the glass out because we had a tape that you could put in that molding and still get underneath that molding to do the paint. We'd prefer not to take the glass out because you want to keep the cars as fresh, new, no wind noises, no water leaks, no nothing. You want to keep the cars pretty much as fresh as you can, but you're going to put a quality paint job on them. So everything would be jammed in. Every car, with the exception of one car, and I'll tell you which one it is, every car was painted completely apart. Every car, except for Johnny Benson's car. Johnny Benson's is required that special color, the chrome illusion, where you have to have the whole car together to do it.
To match it.
Exactly. So we jammed the whole car out first to do that.
What would have been your typical turnaround for one of these? A week. Okay.
A week. Now, that week, and in fact, that's the way I would make money, and that's the way the customers wanted it too. They don't want to wait. You don't want to. You got a brand new car going on here. I want to get in my brand new car, and you're taking it all apart. I haven't even put a mile on my car, man. So you know what I mean. It's
right.
But a week was the best way to do it. It seemed like, unless there was a couple exceptions where we had a couple customers request painted stripes as well, which requires another process because we basically put the car together and then we do the stripes as though that car just came in from the factory that color. We sand the hood back down, sand the bumper back down. Everything is enveloped in clear. We don't paint stripes and put clear over the stripes. Everything is buried. It's all buried under clear, everything. So people just love that. Ooh, that's nice.
Right.
You don't feel an edge,
Right.
And that was one of Denny Barker's selling points. Denny Barker, that's why you have demo cars. You get the customers out there. This is exactly what you can expect.
Any particular challenges that you encountered with any of these steps?
You know, that's a good question. I never really even thought about that. Yeah, the biggest challenge is once you have the car painted, you got to remember everything's apart. So the biggest challenge is putting everything together without screwing anything up. And to be honest, I can't remember repainting one panel on one car, except for Matt Berger. Matt Berger, we did his demo car in the Hugger Orange. In fact, I think it's here actually. We did his demo car, and while I was putting the front fender on, there's a little lip underneath there, and while I was pulling it, the fender cracked. I mean, a whole piece came right out of it. And he doesn't think anything of it. He goes, just get another fender. It's Hugger Orange. I know you can work your magic. In fact, I think I still have the fender in my garage as an extra because it wasn't that bad. But, you know, he's got to have it perfect, so we just grabbed another fender out of the parts. But I can't think of one. You have to remember, everything's apart, and it's all on stands. So not only am I leery about me putting it together, I'm also leery about everything sitting around to the point where somebody else can bump into it, and they can. But fortunately, I got to tell you, we actually had a pretty good crew here in the body shop at the time. It was just me and two others, and they were absolutely respectful because they loved it, because it got that out of their hair. So they're going to do their best to make sure nothing happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
No accidents happen in the shop, stuff like that. But I think that's probably the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is getting all the pieces back together without anything getting screwed up. That's really the biggest challenge.
I know you're a paint and body guy. Did you have anything to do at all with any of the interior transformations?
Nothing.
Okay.
Not a thing.
Okay.
Other than making sure. One day I got mad at my help. We did have one small help, and I got rid of him the same day because he was helping me pull the interior door panels off the car. Everything. The only thing that we were removing from the interior was the door panel on the doors and the panel on the hatch as well, because you can't get to. He pulled those door panels apart, but unfortunately, which fortunately I caught it in time, he put the door panels in the car, and they have the pins on them. And I told you, this is ZL1 summer month, summertime. You don't put door panels back in the car with the pins facing where the genuine leather interior is.
Right.
Unless you want to see prints the rest of your life in the interior. That was the only issue. But no, I had nothing to do with the houndstooth or any of the interiors. I don't know who was in charge of that. That's something you would have to ask.
Sure.
Denny Barker would know a lot about that. So
Now, one of the other standout features on the ZL1s, beyond the paint colors, are the graphics, very strong and iconic. I assume that your team would have a hand in putting those on?
no.
No. Okay.
No. Only if you wanted it painted.
Okay.
That's it.
Do you recall painting any of the graphics on a ZL1?
No. Those were all done down in Atlanta. That was all done. I don't know. Matt Murphy must have had somebody in charge of putting all the stripes on them. Yeah, because they were going down there all anyway for the engine work. There was no reason, especially knowing, and I love the way this all works out, because it gives you a time. You have to understand that there's a limited time that you have to have the paint curing before you can put the graphics on. Otherwise, you end up with bubbling because you got solvents yet escaping some of that stuff. So that was perfect. It was perfect. Ship them down to Atlanta. By the time it gets down there, that paint will be nice and cured. They can put those graphics on anytime they want, So that was all done down in Atlanta, though, on the ZL1s. We were in charge of, we did have a team up here doing some of the Berger stripes, the vinyl Berger stripes. If I'm not mistaken, Denny can verify this, but I believe the Berger Camaros were left with the stripes in the car. In other words, if you wanted them on, we could put them on. In other words, Denny did that because he left the option for the customer to either have them painted on, because they really weren't that much, $1,000, and you could have painted stripes on your car. Right. Back then, it wasn't a lot of money.
And same thing with like the Hot Rod edition with the Hot Rod door graphics,
sure.
leaving it up to the owner to decide they want to put it on.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. No, we never painted any of those type of graphics at all. Nothing like that. Only the stripes, basically. If a customer requested the Berger stripe, the Heritage stripe, that's what they got.
Yeah.
I don't think we did any other type of graphic work. I can't think of, other than a small deal where we had a customized graphic come in for Johnny Benson's car because it's got the JB insignia in there on the hood scoop. Yeah. Other than that, no, it's pretty straightforward. So
now I know a lot of these cars, the other hallmark is around back. You've got the satin black painted taillight panel.
Sure.
So any recollections from painting many of those?
Just a throwback, basically. You would be surprised, that's spray paint. This tells you the technology of the paint now. In fact, you could go to my SS in the parking lot. I painted my back tail panel. I got 80,000 miles on my car. And I drive it all the time. And that tail panel is not chalked up, it's not chipping, and it's spray can, right out of a can. But it's an expensive spray can paint. But it looks good. I like that look. I do. I like the ideas, kind of like what I believe Denny brought that idea to the table of doing the back panels like that. Kind of a throwback to when you look at the old 69s through 72 or 71, I think, you see the back panels like that, you know.
Right.
Plus it makes that by Berger stuff stick out a little bit more, you know what I mean? So
I'm guessing, just like the graphics, you and your team would not have applied any of the final badging on a vehicle?
No.
Okay.
Yes, we would put the SS badging on. I believe we did the Hot Rod edition. Well, that's the only car we did, so we put that badging on there. What is it? The 75th anniversary Berger?
Yes.
Those ones would go on.
Okay.
We've seen a couple of our share of accidents. In fact, even to this day. I'll give you a short story. One gal, she got in an accident with her Berger Camaro, 4th generation. We painted the bumper over at, can I say the other dealership? His competition. They both went to school together. Matt Berger went to school with Todd. So, but it came in there and we did everything on it. And they were happy because here's a guy who was painting them over that Berger. And even to the point where I'm getting ready to transform mine. Back in the day, I got the grill. I managed to get one of the grills. Well, her grill got mangled, and I thought, I don't know if you can get those anymore. I don't think you can. But I got one on So I told her, I go, but I have one on my car I can sell you. So I repainted it with that same spray paint that lasts forever. She's happier than heck. I'm just going with a different look. There was a look that Denny Barker had on his where there's no grill, there's just the openings, and you have a mesh behind the openings, and you get rid of the Camaro. That's the look.
Inside. Yeah.
So I just wanted, that's the look I'm going for on my car. So
now, would your team have applied those inserts, or again, would that have been something?
No, we did.
You guys did do the inserts?
No, we didn't. No. What we did, that's a good question though, because those have to all be blacked out behind it. So we would black that out, same spray paint we were talking about. And it holds up. It holds up great. So.
But not the kind of heritage-inspired insert.
They would do that. Okay. They would put the grills in down there too.
Okay.
I think that was the only other body modification they do, was put the grills in. In fact, I got pictures of them sitting here in the lot before they'd be shipped down there. One story, I don't know if I want to tell you or not. Matt Murphy got a little upset at me because when you're in the process of doing them, there's some things that you might skip knowing that the car is coming back up here and you would finish it.
Okay.
So I would nib. My paint jobs, I am extremely fussy to the point where my booth is clean, my paint jobs are clean, and I only nib. I don't flat sand anything. That's one thing they loved about my paint here.
Now, what does that mean when you nib?
When I mean, what I mean by nib is that if you see a piece of dirt in the paint, you would just sand that piece of dirt out and then rub that piece of dirt out. And then we would, for the cars that were striped, we would also sand the stripe edges to make them a little bit more smoother. That's the only area that we would rub on them though, so that you could get that nice baby butt feel on your stripes too. But sometimes on a couple cars, I let them go back on the trailer down to Atlanta with the nibs not rubbed out. They were nibbed, which makes a little white spot on the cars. I don't know if you've ever seen, GM does it all the time. And Matt wasn't, and I understand Matt. When he explained it, I go, dude, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean it. But he goes, I got customers here, dude.
That are looking at the car and
They're looking
the
at
optics.
They gotta look good.
Sure.
And I go, dude, I'm so sorry. It was only like 2 cars that happened. But still, even 2 cars, it's like, you're talking of, they're not cheap. Even back then, it's good money back then. So.
What, other than that occasion, was it common for you to have some dialogue with Matt?
No.
Okay.
And you know what? That's nice. It's nice because
I'm talking about Matt Murphy. I know Matt Berger. You probably would.
I know that. With, I understand. And what's nice about it is when you don't do that, you know you're doing your job right. You don't want to have to hear from Matt going, dude, what the hell?
What's wrong with this?
Yeah, what's going on with this? How come that bumper's not lined up? Why is my door chipping when I open? None of that. Yeah. Because
you were delivering a high quality.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is exactly why it made sense for Matt. And I got to hand it to Matt Berger doing this and asking that. Why you have one guy, and I'm sure they probably did the same thing in Atlanta. You try to have a guy in control of all of that. You know what I mean? Because you got the other people are too invested in production work. You can't have a production attitude on these type of cars. Even though I did, but I know what I'm doing. I've done it for so many years. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like dude, we took 10 cars in and sanded them all down at the same time before we tear them apart, you know?
Yeah.
You just get a system going, basically, you know?
Well, I think one of the testaments to that, Jeff, to the high quality is that how uniform the cars were and still
pretty
are.
Much. Yeah, pretty much.
If you didn't know, you would have thought that some of this would be a factory package.
What's nice about having a car show up here every year is that you get to see these cars almost every year. And what I would do, especially the first 2 or 3 years that we had the car show up here, is I'd start looking at those front bumpers, start looking at them, looking them over. How are they holding up? We used everything that we could use in our, in our grass. In other words, flex agent was going into the bumpers, rear bumper, front bumper. I didn't cut any corners on any of this. I know a lot of painters won't put it on, but in my estimation, I think that the flex agent, especially on that body style, is absolutely, and I'm glad I did it, because it
now, is that an additive you're adding to the paint to help it?
It makes the paint more resilient in the front. It makes it more, how do you explain it, more bouncy. Stone hits it, it doesn't dig into it, it bounces off the car. Now, that doesn't last forever. Obviously, that resiliency deteriorates with age like everything else does. But you don't see these bumpers all peckered up with stone chips.
Right.
I'm amazed by that. I have to give Matt Berger credit, and I had mentioned this to somebody else here walking around, might have even been this owner, or one of the, I think it might have been Vince with these, with the Dick Harrell car. I says, when we did Matt's car, he goes, dude, there's no chips on it. I go, you can thank Matt Berger for that, because Matt Berger would not settle for a mediocre paint system in the body shop. And we use the same system on these cars that we would use on everyday cars. Every day when they were in accidents, no different. But it was top of the line stuff basically back then, all DuPont. I don't know what they were using. I think they were using DuPont down there too. I'm not sure. They might have been using PPG down there. But both of those lines are top. They're top lines. So,
as we continue through the story arc, Jeff, obviously it all kind of comes to a crescendo with the wide body Dick Harrell cars, radical vehicles. What was your involvement with those?
Zero.
Okay.
Other than the only caveat to that would be after I had left this place, it had nothing to do with Matt Berger or the higher management. It had everything to do with the body shop management. Matt had come to me a couple times and he said, we can't get this green right. And when he's talking that organic green on the Dick Harrell, the wide body, the first one that we were doing, basically.
Yeah, and explain too, why is that so difficult? Because it's actually a green over a silver, correct?
You know, I have never done it. I know, I understand what they're dealing with, what they're fighting with, and I don't know why it is with green.
Okay.
But it is. They're absolutely right. Green is the most difficult, and the way I explain it to Matt Berger, I've never done it, but I know how I could do it because I've dealt with paint all my life, is that you just have to take your time at it. And what I mean by taking time is you have to dilute the paint. You dilute the paint that goes over the silver. And I mean, when I say dilute, I mean you're going to be putting more coats, and this is why some of the painters probably got frustrated. Oh, well, I'm not getting paid to put 6 coats of green on that car. Well, yeah, but you're not going to get paid to repaint it again either if it doesn't look right.
And that's how you achieve that really candy look.
The deep look without seeing the splotches.
Okay.
The green, whatever pigment it is, will show the splotchiness. I'm sure that's what Matt was concerned about. The first 2 paint jobs that they did on the car, I think they ended up stripping the car back down because they had too much paint on it.
Wow.
And by this time, I had moved on far away. Matt couldn't get a hold of me, except that 131. He still said, "You still painting?" Because I'm still having issues with it.
So did you come in to paint that car or just provide advice?
I just told him advice. I gave him advice. I told him what color, what brand I would use, and why I would use it. And the reason why I would use it is because somebody's getting in too much of a hurry. Exactly what I told you. With the green, you have to add more coats to get rid of. If you're seeing splotchiness, it's too strong. It's too strong. But I don't deal with greens. And so I feel for the guys who are painting. I can empathize with them. I've never dealt with it. I've never run into that. So
now, that being said, you did end up painting a Dick Harrell.
yes.
Tell us about how did that opportunity come about?
I believe it happened on Jim Smith? I think Jim Smith recommended, said, I believe that Jeff is still spraying cars. He's just not over at Berger, over at the competition again. So, and Vince got a hold of me, and I says, Vince, if you can get the car over here, I'll be glad to do it. No problem. I've dealt with him. He says, well, I have Matt Berger's demo car here. I go, and I want it to match. And I go, well, I can do it. I did Matt's car.
Roughly what year would this have been?
2000. God, dude.
Caught
Now
you off guard.
you got me into another story though. Remember when I said I was almost dreaming Daytona Yellow in my sleep because we were doing so many of them?
Right.
It just so happens that he brought it up. I think it was 2015. Denny Barker got one right back at it, dude. I mean, serious, it's a heart attack probably not more than a week after it got off the trailer. In fact, he's taking pictures of it over in Lansing. Well, don't assemble it, don't do it, I gotta take it back apart anyway. So I'm doing Denny Barker's 15 in Hugger Orange because they didn't offer Hugger Orange. Denny wants it Hugger Orange, so okay, we'll do it Hugger Orange. Not more than a month later, I get Vince's off the trailer, Hugger Orange again. So I'm dreaming Hugger Orange now instead of Daytona Yellow.
And I guess we'll provide a little bit of context so people understand the dynamic. So the entire run of Berger Supercars wide body Dick Harrell editions were sold through the dealership, featuring radical modifications. We've talked about Vince, a very passionate GMMG collector, so he comes across car number 30, which at the time is green, and that's when he called you in 15 to say, can you paint it Hugger Orange?
And I said, sure, just get it over here. Vince is in Wisconsin, I believe. He's in Wisconsin. And you couldn't work with a better husband and wife. They're absolutely wonderful people. And they just dropped their baby off, and you know what? I'm sure they had absolutely no problems, didn't lose any sleep over it.
Well, it's a neat way they sought you out because of your connection here, and it's a neat way to.
And fortunately, I'm in good. This is where you get along with people. Wenzel let me bring this in and do it, and said, "Fine." I mean, you're making money for the shop. We don't care. I mean, come on in.
Jeff, here we are. 20 years from the model year of a lot of these cars. I realize a lot of the work happened in the early 2000s, but almost 2 decades out.
Sure.
Where you get the opportunity to interact with these cars. What's it like for you to not only see your handiwork, but also to see the love that these cars have and where they've really been able to go within the collecting space?
I see, like I said, it almost looks like bookends going on, however, but it's different now that I look at it. In the most recent years, is that you have new generations that are appreciating these cars yet. Now, let's face it, the first bookend people are dying off. I mean, that's just reality. They age, they get older, and you have to pass, the only way you're going to pass this love to the next generations is with the next generation's cars that they grew up with. And you see that at this GM show, at the shows, not just this show, but other shows that are in conjunction with this area, this whole show that we do here this time of year. You see that resurgence of the younger generations now appreciating, especially, I was just talking to Vince's wife, Sally, right? And she goes, we were walking by here in the showroom that we're sitting here in, and she goes, I don't know why we got this spot right here. And I go, it's the prime spot. She goes, yeah, I know. It's where everybody walks in here. I go, I know why. She goes, why? It's Hugger Orange. And they got the 2 Hugger Oranges, right? They're both parked right there next to each other. And I go, Dick knows what he's doing. He knows and sure enough, you see these young people, the first thing they do is they're crowding around those 2 first cars. This is just Friday night, But they love that. Even the younger, you watch the younger ones taking an interest in all that stuff, so.
Any other recollections or memories from these vehicles, Jeff, and your connection to them?
Probably as soon as we get done with this interview. You know how that works.
Well,
right?
In that case, we'll have a part.
I remember. You'd have to do a follow-up interview for 10 minutes of all the stuff that we forgot to mention, right?
Well, we'll have a part. You leave us open for part 2. Well, hey, Jeff, I really appreciate. I've gotten the chance to know you over the last couple of years, and I've enjoyed hearing about how these cars came together. And I think it is important to catalog a lot of it, because it's such a unique time where these cars are old enough to be classic and historic, but yet new enough that people like yourself are still around.
Just thinking about that, my 22-year-old car in the lot, it's almost a classic already. Wow, and I drive it every day in the summer yet. So
awesome. Well,
that's the only other story I would tell you, right? Is that I had been driving these cars in and out of the shop so much that I said, I want one of these. I told my body guy that. I told the body man, the one who would help me line the doors up, because I can't do that by myself, right? Everything else I can do by myself, the hood. I can't do the hood and the doors. Everything else I could put together. But you got to help me. I said, I want one of these. And then I told him, but it's got to be this color. It's got to have no cloth interior. And he goes, dude, did you see that one up there in the used car lot? Well, apparently Berger has such a name that a guy from Missouri drove up here. He wanted he had an SS, which I had bought, and he wanted a 35th anniversary one, but he wanted it from Berger. It had to be from Berger Chevrolet. So that's how I got my SS. 30,000 miles down there. Good deal. Dick, write me up. Dick. So I had to get one, and it's still fun to drive. I love the car, love it. And I'm short enough to get it, get in that thing and still not bang my head on the T-tops on it. So
awesome.
So that's pretty good.
Well, cool. Well, certainly, Jeff, if you have more memories, we will be sure to get another interview with this guy, and be sure to follow along for more about these historic cars and their story.